we have to go for the selection of specific PP to protect our hands, to protect our feet, to protect our eyes, to protect our face, etc. So we have to select different types of hand gloves, safety shoes, safety goggles, etc. And we must take care about the PPEs, especially important during the pipeline cleaning services, pipeline pigging process, and nitrogen purging process. The fifth point is ensure adequate training for operators of heavy duty machineries. So when there is a need of excavators, forklift trucks, some other trucks, then cranes, etc. So for operating these types of heavy duty machineries, the operator should go through the specific training and they should follow the operations and maintenance manual to avoid any type of incident or accident. The sixth one is inspect all tools used on site. So while operating these types of heavy duty machineries, while operating these types of excavation activities, while doing various types of works, we need specific tools. And before starting the actual job, we must go through the toolbox talks. And in these discussions also, we should inspect all these types of tool before utilizing on the on-site. The seventh point is use proper handling techniques. So while doing different activities on the on-site, especially when we are talking about the pipeline activities, when we are using this lifting the heavy suspended loads, because there are heavy pipelines are there, then some fittings are also there. And if we are doing all these things manually, then there are chances of back injury. But if it is done by the heavy cranes, then we can avoid the ergonomic hazard. So likewise, for each and every activity, we must go for the job hazard analysis so that we can reduce the risk or we can eliminate the risk and we can also avoid the different types of hazards. The next point is maintain correct pressure testing procedures. So what we have discussed in the pigging process, in the cleaning process, servicing process, or in the nitrogen purging process. So there are different processes or the operations which needed a specific testing guidelines, a specific testing pressure, which is given under the different acts or rules or in the standards. So we have to follow all these types of standards or rules and regulation while testing these types of equipment or processes. Then there is a main parameter that is called as preventive maintenance. So we all know that if there is a breakdown or emergency, then that maintenance activity is called as breakdown maintenance or emergency maintenance. But if you want to avoid any type of maintenance that is on 11th hour or after breakdown, then we must go for the preventive maintenance. So prevention is better than cure. That phrase we know, and on that basis only, this preventive maintenance can be worked out. So we have to observe, we have to supervise each and every operation, each and every activity, so that we can easily predict that this particular process or this particular machinery required a lubrication, this required a replacement, this required a replacement of a small component, or that may be isolation, etc. So whatever it may be, we have to observe each and every activity and we have to predict some of the maintenance process, and that should be done under this preventive maintenance. So under this preventive maintenance, all equipment, tools, and the vehicles used on the work site must be inspected. maintain in adherence to all the applicable legislation and as per the manufacturer's instructions. In order to ensure the preventive maintenance does occur, an inventory of all the equipment, tools, and vehicle must be maintained, and a maintenance schedule must be developed and followed. So planning, then execution and repetition of these activities is very important, and that is why a micro level supervision, micro level observation and planning is one of the skill in the preventive maintenance. So supervisors observation is very important in this type of preventive maintenance. Then another maintenance type is emergency maintenance. So it is a type of reactive maintenance because we are doing the maintenance after emergency situation that is used to prevent a threat to lives, property, profitability or viability of an organization. So this emergency maintenance workflow gives you a specific idea or basic philosophy. That is, a critical event occurs and it is an emergency. If logically yes, then we have to perform the emergency maintenance. If it is the answer is no, then create a high priority work order to for the smooth functioning of the organization, smooth functioning of the production. So if the critical event can be defined as an emergency situation, then that maintenance activity is called as emergency maintenance. So whether it is in industry or in residence, the emergency maintenance is required of when lives, property or assets are under immediate threat. So we have to go for this emergency maintenance on the first priority. Then for this preventive maintenance can be a program which can avoid or eliminate this type of emergency maintenance. So if you plan and execute in a proper way, that is the preventive maintenance, then in most of the cases we can avoid this emergency maintenance. Then the types of emergency maintenance, request and the responses. So emergency automated maintenance, automated response maintenance, and human request. So these are the different types of emergency maintenance request. So sometimes it is the system which can automatically handle this situation like emergency maintenance, and sometimes only the response is there and we have to decide whether the emergency maintenance is called or not. And sometimes human being or the persons or the employees are indicating that this is emergency situation and we have to tackle these types of situation as a emergency maintenance. So depending on the conditions and depending on the situations, we have to handle these types of request. So the competent person or the expert person is going to decide whether this request is accepted or rejected. And how to avoid our emergency maintenance situation? So first, distinguish between the costly emergency maintenance and urgent maintenance. So emergency maintenance needs immediate attention, even on a Sunday at double time and a half. And that is why in near about all the industries, the maintenance people are having the presence in the industry for each and every day. And that is why the weekly off is on a cycle basis. So if the weekly off of a particular company is on Saturday or Sunday, but the maintenance people are present on Saturday and Sunday, and their weekly off may be other than this Saturday and Sunday. Why? Because the emergency, if in case any emergency situation is there, then these maintenance people are going to handle these types of situations. So urgent maintenance can wait for normal business hours. In a tendency situation, if a toilet is clogged but the unit process another functioning toilet, it is urgent rather than emergency. So we must clearly understand what exactly the urgent is and what is the emergencies. If an elevator is out of service and no one is trapped inside while other elevators remain functional, it is urgent rather than emergency. Making this distinction keeps cost under control. So we have to take care about the people first, then we have to take care about the property, and then we have to balance about this economical situation or the cost of air related to these emergency situations. Again, if the preventive maintenance is better in your company, then normally we can avoid these types of situations. That may be urgent or that may be emergency. Then there is another element that is called as pressure relief system. So relief systems are used to limit the difference between the internal and external equipment pressure. The relief valves are utilized for these pressure relief systems to prevent the damage to mechanical equipment, piping systems, and instrument in case of upset conditions, that is pressure conditions in a process plant. So example of these relief systems are pressure relief valves for protection of static equipment, such as columns, drums, and heat exchangers. So if you take an example of chemical industry, then there may be a distillation column, there may be a gas absorption column, or nowadays in most of the effluent treatment plant, the scrubber system is always there. So sometimes we have to take care about these types of systems. In heat exchanger, that may be a shell and tube heat exchanger, graphite plate heat exchanger, or other types of heat exchanger. So there will be a pressure always, and especially when we are talking about the boilers, pressure vessels, etc. So all these equipments and the examples are the pressure systems. So in these pressure systems, we have to use the pressure relief system. So in case of emergency, or if you want to avoid any type of damage, then we have to operate this pressure relief system manually, semi-automatically, or automatically. Then another example is thermal relief valves for protecting of offsite piping, then pressure relief valve, pump mechanical casing or mechanical seal protection, then pressure relief valves upstream of first valve on the discharge line of the positive displacement pump. So these are the different examples of these pressure relief systems. We have to understand that the main purpose is to avoid the damage, to avoid the accident with the help of this system. So there are different recommendations at global level. There are different recommendations at national level, and there may be some specific guidelines at the state level or regional level also. So these are some of the general guidelines like APA recommended practice 520 and design and installation of pressure relieving system in refineries. Then APA recommended practice 2000 venting atmospheric and low pressure storage tanks. Then British Factory Act recommended the steam raising plants if applicable, as well as the different types of requirements. So whatever may be the requirement which is given by the different guidelines, different standards, but we have to follow that guidelines to avoid the damage, to avoid the accidents. So these are the different examples of different guidelines like APA RP 576, pressure relief systems, then relief valves, bursting disc, then gaskets, etc. So these are the different component which can be utilized in the pressure relief system to release the pressure from that equipment, from that system, and we can easily avoid the damage. So you can go through these videos for the details of this pressure relief valve, how it operates. Then another or component is breather valve. So breather valve are known as direct acting pressure or vacuum relief valve. So our special type of relief valve. So we have already discussed about the pressure relief valves. Now it is a breather valve, and it is the similar type of pressure relief valve, but it is specifically designed for tank protection. So before, in the previous slides, we have discussed the things in a general form. Now this breather valve is related to the tank protection only. So the range include pressure only, vacuum only, and combined pressure or vacuum valves. So all available with flanged outlets or vented to the atmosphere. So these relief valves are used extensively on bulk storage tanks, including fixed roof tanks with floating covers, and to minimize the evaporation losses also. So we have to balance these things, that we have to relieve this pressure, but we have to protect the evaporation loss, or we have to protect the material loss. So we have to design these types of breather valve in a such way to balance the economical losses also, as well as to release the pressure or to reduce the pressure. Why we are going to use these types of valves? Because it is a protection device mounted on a nozzle opening on the top of a fixed roof. So for atmospheric storage tank, we are going to use these breather valves. Its primary purpose is to protect the tank against rupturing or imploding. So we have to avoid this implosion or rupture or the damage of that tank. So without an opening or control opening, a fixed roof atmospheric tank would rupture under increasing the pressure. And this situation we are going to avoid with the help of this breather valve. So some standards are also mentioned. With reference to these standards, we can go for these breather valves. So we have already discussed how these breather valves are going to protect our tank. So these are some of the specific guidelines, like pressure and vacuum setting, that is from 0.2 psid to 5 psid or more, and that wall seal pressure is 1 psi to 1.5 psi. Then temperature variations. So for this pressure change ranging from 1 to 1.5 psi, for each 30° Fahrenheit temperature change is there. And then for the temperature versus humidity. So if the humidity criteria controls this temperature, then again we have to take care about this pressure range. So climatic conditions also change the pressure and temperature conditions. Then number of airlifts. So for each descent from 10.7 psia to 14.7 psi. So psi means pound per square inch, A means atmosphere, G means gauge pressure. So we can easily convert these ranges into SI units or MKS units also. Then amount of desiccant. So that is another criteria. It has been noted that in the ground storage, each time a container must breathe, it will take in as much as 0.015 grams of water per cubic feet. And during each air descent in a pressurized cargo department, it will take in as much as 0.013 grams of water per cubic feet. So we have to also consider this much of water while breathing these tanks. Then you can go through the details related to these breather valves through this YouTube video. Then there is another system that is called as flare system. So a gas flare alternatively known as flare stack. So normally we know these systems in a ETP plant, in a refinery plant, or in a chemical industry, where the excess gas can be burned into this system with the help of flare, and that is why it is called as flare systems. So in the petroleum refineries, chemical plants, and natural gas processing plants, and oil and gas production sites, oil wells, gas wells, offshore oils, and gas rigs, and landfills. So these are the different locations or the regions where these flare systems can be utilized. So depending on the local environment constraints, this system can be used for extensive venting during startup or shutdown, venting of excess process plant, then handling emergency releases from safety valves, blow down, and depressurizing systems. So depending on the requirement, sometimes we require that this much of excess gas is produced in this particular plant. So we have to burn this plant before sending to the atmosphere, because some gases characteristics are in such a way that if these gases are sending to the atmosphere directly, then they are more toxic or poisonous to the atmospheric contents rather than the after combustion gases. So we have to burn these gases. So this is the schematic diagram from which you can have the idea what exactly the flare stack or the flare system is. So in this diagram, you can easily identify this is the gas or oil system, that is emergency relief lines. Then flashback seal drums are used, and then spark ignition device is also used. So obviously, when we are talking about this flare or the combustion systems, so there should be three elements of the fire triangle. That is, oxygen is always present. Then we have to give the spark or ignition source, and then the fuel. So fuel is nothing but the excess gas. So this is the mechanism of this flare system, which is given in detail. So you can go through this video for how to operate this flare system. Then this is the mechanism of mechanical failure leads to loss of contaminant and its prevention strategy. So sometimes it happens that there is a loss of contaminant in is a major in some of the now this we are talking pipe, we are talking refineries. So this petroleum industry face this problem because not only it dent the image and reputation of the industry, but also because it may result to the environmental pollutions. So if the containments the containments is more, then that may be adversely affect on the environment. So that may be in terms of air, that may be in water bodies, that may be in the on the land itself. So ecosystem can also disturb due to these containments of the special material. So that is depending on the petroleum products, which type of material, and depending on that characteristics of that material, that again can be adversely affect on these vegetations, land, and life or property. So one of the element is that damage, and second element is the direct cost. So we have to take care about these things to avoid the containment of these types of materials. So these are some of the example where the oil spills and some other issues are already happen in the Nigeria. Then in the village, Jace, killing more than 700 people, and 2 years later, 2 pipeline explosions In the southern Nigeria, again killed 300 people. So this much of damage, fatalities are there due to these pipeline explosions. So we must study the different types of hazard associated with the loss of containment. Then we have to check the model and simulate a model for the risk assessment and consequence evaluation of loss of containment, and then to carry out the risk assessment criteria to reduce the risk as well as the hazard. So these are some of the examples where we can identify the different or the general reasons for of bearing failure. So this is one of the major reason, that is bearing failure, and these are the different points due to which bearing failure can be happen. So like lubrication, then contamination, then improper mounting, misalignment, false brenneling, corrosion, electrical damage, fatigue or spalling. So these are the general points which can be the reason of bearing failure in the pipelines. Then some other elements like overheating, excessive loads, improper storage and handling, and improper fitting. Thank you.